Welcome to the Holistic Wealth and Health Podcast. Your co-hosts, Jason Smith and Brian Bibbo, will inspire and teach you how to prosper in your mind, body, and spirit, not just your financial life. Joining forces with field experts, Jason and Brian are here to help you focus on what matters most in your life, living well.
In this podcast, Brian Bibbo and I interviewed Dave Alison. And I wanted to give a little bit of background on Dave. So similar to Brian, I met Dave as a young man. Dave was 24 when Brian was 22. And I have been proud to work with him and mentor him through the years. Very similar to the story I talked about Brian. And he is, similar to Brian, become the guy. You know, that Brian's the guy at J.L. Smith. I would say Dave is the guy at Prosperity Capital Advisors. So very excited. Him and I have taught thousands of financial advisors how to do holistic wealth management, training on the bucket plan process and tax planning and management and a multitude of other things. So this is an exciting episode to bring together Brian and Dave to talk about what is holistic wealth management. Hello, welcome to the J.L. Smith Holistic Wealth and Health Podcast. So I'm here with Brian Bibbo and my good buddy Dave Alison that is joining us today to talk about the topic we're going to discuss. What is holistic wealth management?
Dave, we're excited to have you on. Just a little bit of his credentials: certified financial planner, enrolled agent. And what I hear, Dave, the rumor is 2023, 40 under 40 from Investment News. That's something special. Speak a little bit about that.
Yeah, snuck it under the radar. Just turned 39, will be 40 soon. So I had to try to follow in Jason's footsteps. You know, Jason was 40 under 40. What was it, Jason, 20 years ago? No, I'm just kidding.
2015, but funny thing is, you're right. It was the same thing. It was when I turned 39. Yep.
Yeah, they must feel sorry for us. They sneak us in right when we're 39 and tease us. So it was my last year. I could have won it, and we did earn it. So it was a cool honor. And like I said, following in good footsteps over there.
Yeah, there's no doubt. What a prestige award. So we're here to talk about holistic wealth management. Dave, when we speak those words, holistic wealth management, what does it mean to you? Tell the audience here, what in your mind is holistic wealth management?
Yeah, it's interesting. I think that if you break it down, wealth management is, if we take the word holistic out first, it's really just kind of trying to solve, enhance, and optimize every area of somebody's kind of money, right? Their finance, whether it's investments or insurance or, some of the different components that are kind of necessary and relevant in the financial world that we all live in today. When we add that word holistic to it, it really takes on kind of a different dynamic. It really, for me, starts to bring together, things that might be outside of the realm of normal wealth management or normal financial services. And, I really kind of look at it as 5 core pillars. I know Brian and Jason, we've spoke about this a lot in terms of wealth management. The first is, of course, financial planning. And I mean, financial planning in and of itself is its own discipline, right? You could go and get a college degree in financial planning, and there's designations like the certified financial planner that specialize in financial planning. But then the second is investment management or asset management, right? Managing money, trying to earn the best rate of return that we can, managing the risks that are involved in investing. The third component is tax management. So helping us really optimize our income tax situation, trying to maximize our income, minimize our taxes each and every year, as well as our lifetime taxes. Number 4 is protection planning, right? For all the what ifs that come up in life. And then number 5, that last pillar, is legacy planning. So, what happens to all of our stuff when we're no longer here. Who gets it? What are the rules? What do we want to see happen with that? What's the impact? And so, again, Brian, to your point, like each one of those pillars could really be its own profession, right? Financial planning, investment management, protection planning, taxes, estate planning. But when we think of holistic wealth management, it's really the intersection of all of those things. It's, bringing all of those together to really optimize a client's financial well-being.
Yeah, that's great. Because I think we know this, Dave. We traditionally see kind of that fragmented approach, right? Where someone's being sold a tax return, an annuity, or has this over here. And when you talk about those 5 pillars, it's really taking those 5 pillars and making them holistic and put them into one exact plan. But Dave, I know you work with clients and everything else. Where do you do your best work? Where do you think you add the more value than other professionals out there?
Yeah, I think it's when clients really embrace that holistic approach. Because again, I think, as professionals, we can engage in any one of those silos and be fairly effective, right? I think we've got a pretty strong foundational investment approach and how we think about and manage money. I think we could do a good job if somebody came in just to, really develop a financial plan or maybe a retirement income distribution plan, depending on what phase they're in. Of course, we could help a client navigate their insurance needs, their taxes, or just specifically focus on legacy planning. But the reality of it is, when we're only focused on one or two of those areas, we might be missing big opportunity to make a big financial impact on kind of the overall wealth that the client has. And so again, it's really when clients want to embrace that holistic approach is, where I definitely continue to see providing tremendous value, because at the end of the day, they're all levers and they all impact each other, right? Think about investment management, Brian. It's not what you make, it's what you keep, right? And, one of the biggest costs that comes with making money is income taxes. And so again, we could have the best investments in the world, but at the end of the day, if we're not optimizing them for not the gross return, but the net after tax return, we're missing the boat on the opportunity to keep more of, what's taken us a lifetime to continue to accumulate. So again, it's really that intersection of all those different areas.
I think the key words are coordination and collaboration too, right? Because if you don't have that coordination across all 5 of those pillars and collaboration for any of the people that are working in those areas, forget it. And I think that's the thing we've always seen and we've always talked about is the silos, right? We got to break down the silos. Too often, the tax guy is the tax guy, the investment lady's the investment lady, right? The insurance and so on in the attorney. And so you don't have that, total collaboration and coordination of the professionals or all, into one comprehensive plan. And we know if that doesn't happen, balls get dropped, things get missed. Opportunities to save money on taxes, things get left, unaddressed, right? Sometimes one professional thinks, because there's so much overlap, for example, with the financial and tax, that, whose ownership really is it? Is it the tax preparer that is just inputting all the information into the system and spitting out what they owe or what refund they're going to get in there? In most people's mind, it is the tax preparer's responsibility to provide tax planning and management. But in reality, maybe it's the investment person's opportunity, responsibility to provide that.
Yeah, I think, Jason, you're dead on. And like one of the things that I would encourage, and actually I was just having this conversation with a colleague of ours who's a CPA and a certified financial planner also, and we were talking about these kind of 5 pillars of holistic wealth management, and they were chatting with a client of theirs or a potential new client who was working with a major wirehouse. So one of the biggest financial institutions in America. I'm not going to say the name, but you could probably take 3 or 4 guesses and get it right. And, they said, they made the comment, well, my current advisor is, really promoting wealth management. And, they even throw around the term holistic wealth management once in a while. And the next step in that client conversation, and I'd encourage anyone listening to do this as well as they're thinking of their own financial situation, is, kind of think about each one of those pillars and rate your current either advisor, or if you're doing it on your own confidence level on a scale of 1 to 10. So if I said financial planning, if you're younger, it's really building a goals-based plan to achieve what you want to get out of life and how you want to maximize your money and hopefully ultimately be able to retire one day and have the financial freedom. But, kind of rank what you're getting from your own advisor, or, if you're a do-it-yourselfer, your own confidence in how good your financial plan is from a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being great, 1 being probably needs some work.
And do you have a blueprint? I mean, most people, Dave, we talk about this all the time. They don't have a written plan, right? I mean, if you're going to build a house, which in essence this is your financial house, right? You have to have a strong foundation. You have to have good bones to this house.
Need the blueprint.
Yeah. I mean, are you realistically going to build a house without a blueprint? And so many people, they're like, oh yeah, I got these investments over here. I got this insurance policy. I got this and that. But they don't have a blueprint to follow. They don't have a written financial plan.
And it goes, and Brian, I know you do, more retirement income distribution planning than anyone I know. I mean, the same goes true for somebody approaching retirement or in retirement, right? A financial plan, I would actually dial it down even deeper and say it's a retirement income distribution plan. Once you've kind of gone through that accumulation phase and now you're approaching the distribution phase, it's not so much about where you're stashing money away and saving. It's about what accounts you're taking money from, what the right order of money is, how you're going to maximize your retirement income and minimize your taxes, how you're going to ensure you don't run out of money in retirement. Like, these are all the components that either go into a financial plan when you're accumulating or a retirement income distribution plan. But again, kind of rank yourself 1 through 10, and then move around to the next pillar, which is investment management, right? How do your investments stack up? And maybe you're working with somebody who really specializes in just investment management, and they're able to navigate this ever-changing market environment. I mean, think about what we've seen in the last 3-4 years. We had a global pandemic that rocked the markets, and then we saw a super sharp recovery. Then we saw one of the largest interest rate hiking cycles we've ever seen in the history of this country. That rocked not only the stock market, but the bond market. Then we started to see a recovery. And then, just in the last month or so here, we've seen the market take a pullback. And so again, kind of rank your current relationship or your own capability on a 1 through 10. And then continue to navigate through to tax management. How confident are you that you're not paying the IRS more than you legally need to be, right? That's proactive tax management. Now, we all have a civic duty to pay income tax, but we don't have to pay any more than the tax code actually obligates us to. And unfortunately, Brian, how many times do you find that you review somebody's tax return and you find they're either overpaying, or maybe they're not capitalizing on strategies that can reduce maybe not their tax this year, but quite certainly their lifetime tax, which is the tax that they'll have to pay throughout their lifetime, or the tax that their beneficiaries will have to pay upon inheritance.
Yeah, I think you nailed it, Dave. When we review those tax returns, we'll always find something that's a little bit off, whether it be HSA contributions that they should be getting a deduction for, or other things going on. And when we look at the future, it's not about what you can save in taxes today, it's what you can save in future years, right? We've been lied to in the sense of everybody said, put your money away pre-tax, put your money away pre-tax. And we heard that for 20 or 30 years. And we run across individuals that the majority of their assets, they have a silent partner. And we know who that silent partner is, right? The IRS. Uncle Sam's their silent partner in those IRAs. And we got to work to start diffusing that tax time bomb for them. But I think, Dave, one of the biggest aha moments here, and I just want to take a step back because this is so powerful, what you said is like the 5 pillars of holistic wealth management. Rank them 1 through 10. where do you stand, right? And you may be a do-it-yourself or you may be working with someone else, but at the end of the day, it's like, look at that. Where can you improve on? And usually what we see is, I'm going to say 75, 80% of the time, if it's a partner, husband, wife scenario that we run across, is like one of them handles the finances, the other one doesn't. So even take that concept and have one person rank it in the household, then have the other person rank in the household, and you might get different answers. And that just shows you we're not all on the same page, and it's important to do that. But Dave, while I have you, I want to take some education from you, right? You always got good things. And there's two concepts I would love to discuss educational wise is, you always shared with me is like, not all money is taxed the same. Can you elaborate on that for us?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, at the end of the day, there's thousands and thousands of pages of the IRS tax code, and it is insanely complex, right? Like people get, undergraduate degrees in tax. They go on to get LLMs or become a tax attorney. They could spend 20, 30, 40 years in private practice. And the reality of it is the tax code still can elude them. There's a lot of gray area. But the reality of that entire gigantic tax code is it really comes down to those 7 simple words that not all money is taxed the same. And the wealthiest people in this country, and quite frankly, in this world, have figured it out. Like, I always get a kick out of when I read these headlines and I see that people like Warren Buffett or Jeff Bezos or Mark Zuckerberg pay less in income tax than a lot of their employees do. And that's kind of a simple component of those 7 words. Not all money is taxed the same, because, those individuals, they don't take a salary from their company. They don't take a salary, not because they don't like money. I'm pretty sure they all like money. They're some of the richest people in the world, but they don't like having ordinary income, because ordinary income is taxed at those higher marginal tax rates, all the way up to 37% today. Whereas if you look at capital, if you're a capital allocator, if you have the ability to build capital, that's taxed more preferentially at capital gains rates. So if you can accumulate company stock, qualified dividends, or long-term capital gains are going to carry a top tax rate of 20%. So that's just a very simple example of how somebody who has the ability to, generate capital gain or dividend income could, quite frankly, cut their tax bill by almost 50%, right? And there's so many other ideas, right? You don't have to be a Jeff Bezos or an Elon Musk, right? Anybody can participate in this same concept. And the key is something you hit on earlier. It's you need tax diversification in your life. And that's really what this pillar of tax management stands for. Because again, I love pre-tax money for certain clients in certain scenarios. Some of our clients who do have really high earned income that are in that 32, 35, 37% bracket, and will probably be in a lower tax rate later on in life, it does make sense to take some deductions today and then take that money out later on in life when they're in a lower bracket. Or maybe you're in a high state tax, right? Like California or New York. And I know, Brian, most of your clients are in Ohio, but they might have family members or friends or listeners in those other states. But maybe you're going to retire from Ohio and move down to Florida, where there is no state income tax. And so again, making decisions to accumulate deductions today makes sense, but it can't be all or nothing. You really want some diversification, and there's tax advantaged accounts, like you mentioned, Brian, where you're not going to get the deduction today to put the money in, but you are going to get all the benefits of tax deferred growth. And then when you take it out, guess what happens? It's tax-free, right? Mm-hmm. And so again, having some money in that kind of funnel, accumulating money through that funnel, taking distributions from that funnel could add a lot of efficiency to a financial plan. And then last but not least, there's that post-tax money. This is traditionally that capital asset. It's brokerage accounts, it's trust accounts, it's real estate. Again, a lot of tax benefits for investing in things like that. And so, the one kind of thing I try to stand up on the top of the building and shout to everybody is, there's not an all or nothing solution. It should never be all pre-tax or all tax advantage. You really want to accumulate money in the most tax diversified manner so that when you go to retire, you could blend money out in the most tax efficient manner. Now, there's certain amounts of money you should take out of your retirement accounts, those low brackets like 10 and 12%. But then maybe you want to blend money out of tax advantaged or post-tax so you don't actually get into those higher tax brackets in retirement.
So Dave, I think we've done a good job. Like, think about these pillars. If we're calling financial planning the blueprint, right? Whether you're younger and having goals-based planning, or you're nearing retirement in the next 10 years and you want to make sure you have a solid retirement income distribution plan, let's call financial planning that pillar the blueprint. And we have the other four, right? We just talked about the tax. And, but I think what I'd like to have a little discussion on is, if you really think about it, most financial planners, financial advisors that, the general public, perception or what they see, what reality is happening, when they work with that advisor, is they're more doing investment management. Primarily they're doing investment management, asset management. And so the thing is like, do they give you a blueprint, right? Before they're moving forward with the investment and insurance and tax and all this, are they creating a blueprint? That's the financial planning. We know what the investment management is. And I think generally the perception, again, is that they're doing all this, but in reality, in many cases, they're really just doing the investment management. The big differentiator, I think, that we believe holistic wealth management is the incorporation of the tax. But then let's also talk about the insurance, and let's talk about the estate planning and how they connect directly to tax too. Because I think people don't understand how the insurance has a direct effect on the tax, as well as the estate planning can have a direct, effect on what ultimately the tax ends up being, the taxable liability for the families now and into the future.
Yeah, it's a great point. And again, that's how we kicked things off, is it's really the intersection of all of this that optimizes somebody's finances, right? If you don't have these things connected, you're leaving money on the table, right? And I think that's like the biggest value that I see, advisors like us and the ones that, we continue to work with at our companies, really, where they make the biggest difference is, of course, we want to maximize rate of return. Of course, we want to give clients a great financial plan that gives them peace of mind. But it's when we can pick up extra dollars by optimizing these things, that's just true value on top of it. But to your point, we talk about protection planning as that fourth. And protection planning is for all the what ifs in life. I think, the most extreme what if is loss of life. If we were to pass away, how do we ensure our family is taken care of? And no matter what phase you are in life, there's an impact to loss of life. If I were to lose my life today, I have 3 little kids that rely on my income. So income replacement is very important, right? Maybe later on in life, once you've kind of gotten the kids off payroll and out of the house, now loss of life kind of could take on a different component. Maybe your children and their grandchildren rely on you to help watch after the grandkids, or maybe you're a caretaker for an elderly parent, right? There's just so many things to think about just with loss of life. And then we go to, the next phase, which is, okay, we didn't pass away, but maybe we're disabled and we can't go to work. We can't earn an income, or maybe we're retired and we become somewhat disabled in retirement through a disease and illness, things like dementia. and we need caretaker services. And so the reality of that is, if we don't pass away, but we end up living a life where we have an extended care event, that is quite costly to bring caretakers in, because the last thing we would want is our family to be obligated to maybe leave their career and become a caretaker. And so, there's things like long-term care insurance, or even just a long-term care plan for the what ifs that happen in life. There's protection planning around assets. And so this could be asset protection. This could be protecting against stock market volatility. There's ways to use insurance products that could eliminate downside stock market crashes. So if you're in retirement and you want to hedge so that 2008, 2009 doesn't happen and you don't lose potentially 40 or 50% of your net worth if the stock market crashes, there's vehicles to be able to do things like that. And so again, protection planning is anything that we could do to provide a hedge for those what ifs in life. And go ahead, Brian.
No, I was just going to say, you're nailing it here. And one of the bigger things I see is longevity risk, right? You retire at 65, you live till 70. There's not too many variables that can go wrong in your retirement plan outside years, but you retire at 65 and you live till 95. Look, we got 30 years there of retirement, right? And that's so crucial, so many more variables. You talked about the stock market, interest rates, risk, all that stuff fluctuates within 30 years. And you got to make sure you have a dynamic plan that can change with the times, right? Right now, what's going on with interest rates, bonds, it's talking to people saying, hey, you can't do what you did 5 years ago. It doesn't make sense. And all four of my grandparents, Jay, as you know, went to the nursing home. They all went to the nursing home, and it's a tale of two grandparents. My one grandparent, he was the CEO of a company, and by the time he went in the nursing home, he still had $1 million. He was there just under 3 years. Well, my grandma had full-blown dementia, perfect health. Mine was gone, was in there for 7 years. And in that 7 years, they went through over $800,000. There was $140,000 left when they were gone. Then my other grandparents, my mom's side of the family, they were in the hospital their whole life. He were Euclid General Hospital, which is now our Cleveland Clinic. He was the head maintenance guy. My grandma was the secretary. But I share that portion of the story because they saw it firsthand what it was like, and these elderly individuals coming into the hospital. So they bought long-term care insurance. And they weren't as well as the other grandparents, but they had about $350,000. By the time it was all said and done, they still had $300,000 left over. So one of their goals was to protect that legacy. But I do believe where we provide the most value is time. What is our most valuable asset as human beings? Everybody likes to go, well, I have this car, I have these assets, but time is our most valuable asset. And where this holistic plan really comes together is we give people back their time, right? We give people that extra vacation a year, another day with the grandchildren. They don't have to go to here, and here to get all these services done. Where this holistic wealth management comes together the most is where it's all combined, and the individuals that we work with are appreciative and engage with us because they see the value added, right? There's a lot of do-it-yourselves out there, but maybe that's what you want to do, but what are you exchanging off? You're exchanging your time for something else.
Well, if you think about it, Brian, this model, right, this holistic wealth management, as we call it, it's been around forever, but it was reserved for the ultra high net worth. And it's called the family office, but they literally would hire a super wicked smart guy that was full-time, had every designation under the sun. And all he would do, though, yeah, exactly, is coordinate amongst these professionals and make sure that collaboration, that coordination happens, and this holistic wealth management happens. But what we're doing is we're bringing it to the everyday, hardworking savers, entrepreneurs, investors that have done a great job of accumulating wealth, but they don't want to make a mistake. And maybe they either have the capability. Most of the people we work with, they're very smart. They have the capability to do it themselves, but they don't have the time or they don't want to dedicate the time, so they outsource it to us. And I think what you guys were just talking about a moment ago from a pillar standpoint, as we're kind of landing the plane on pillars, was risk management, right? This protection planning, we are managing risk, and we're utilizing insurance companies in some instances, and many, to help manage that risk because they're the best in the world at it.
Yeah. And, like Jason, something I picked up from you over the years is, even if you don't go buy something like insurance, right? Long-term care insurance, life insurance, disability insurance, umbrella policies, right? Like, I think we all have homeowners insurance and auto insurance because we're mandated to in many cases. But even if you don't buy the insurance, you have to have a plan in place, right? Jason, I remember you always saying, listen, if you don't want to buy long-term care insurance, that's fine. You're going to self-fund for your care if you need it, but you got to have a plan in place. And I think that's what really falls into protection planning. It's like, if we think about two of the pillars, asset management or investment management is like offense. Of course, we want to earn the best rates of return we possibly can for our clients and for ourselves. But protection planning is like defense, right? And you can't go win the Super Bowl unless you have a pretty good offense and a pretty good defense. And so those two pillars are just a great example of how they work together to optimize somebody's risk return profile, how much risk they're willing to take and what types of returns we should generate. And that last pillar, legacy planning or estate planning, is, I always call that kind of the bow on top of everything. Because at the end of the day, that basically is there to answer a couple simple questions. When you're gone, where does your money go? And what are the rules, right? Where does your money go and what are the rules? And for some people, whatever's left for the kids is left for them. For others, they want to leave a lasting legacy to the children, the grandchildren, or charities. And so that's kind of where all of that component comes in.
Yeah, and to add to what you said, Dave, what popped in my head is we talk about investment management as the offense, and really risk management or protection planning is the defense. Then tax management is like the special teams, and we all know you can win or lose a game with special teams. And so with the audience here of a bunch of Browns fans, because to your point, Dave, being here out of Cleveland, and then quite a few Jaguars. About a third of our clients now are Jacksonville and down in Florida. So I think they can relate to the pain that not having a good offense or defense or special teams can lose games too.
Yeah, Dave, there's two last things I want to follow up with you personally on. Is you have this great goal. You have this goal of training and educating 100,000 financial advisors. Can you quickly speak to that?
Yeah, this was something, Jason kind of really inspired me on like 10, 12, 13 years ago. Is I remember he shared, hey, we have JL Smith, and there's only so many people that we could impact with this holistic approach in Avon. And obviously you guys have expanded now beyond that. But, really it was getting kind of me excited about the opportunity to expand this approach nationally. And, kind of our viewpoint, and I know Jason shares this, is if we can train a lot more advisors to go from, a transactional or a traditional financial services model to one that really embraces this holistic approach, we know that there's just so many families out there that need it. Maybe they feel intimidated, to Jason's point earlier. Hey, I'm not Jeff Bezos. I can't go spend $1 million a year on a family office. Well, you can access this same type of holistic wealth management by working with a firm like JL Smith or others that truly embrace this approach. And they're not just out there trying to manage money or sell investments or sell insurance or sell tax preparation or sell legal documents. They are there to put all the pieces of the puzzle together for the client.
Now, Dave, that's awesome. I think the end game with that is how many families can you help nationwide and worldwide? Really? Is that where it came from, Jason, in the long run? But if I got one last thing for you, Dave, and I don't
Sure.
know if you know this is coming, but if you have one message to the world, what would it be?
One message to the world. Well, if it's around holistic planning and this specific topic, I think it's, if we went around those 5 pillars of holistic wealth management and you scored yourself or your current advisor from 1 to 10, and you're not sitting at least 40 out of 50 or better, then it's time to revisit your strategy, get a second opinion, talk to somebody like Brian and his team, because again, just getting incremental improvement in this holistic approach and getting these things optimized can really make meaningful difference. I mean, think about, Brian, if you were just able to save somebody $2,500 a year in taxes because they had inefficient tax management, that's $2,500 a year that they can take their family on an additional vacation. It's $2,500 a year a grandparent could take their grandchildren out to dinners or on a special trip. It's additional money that could go into educational funding and planning. So, I mean, it's just so impactful, the dollars and cents that this holistic approach really adds up to. And that would be a big kind of piece of my recommendation is, really, judge your own situation, take some ownership of it, understand, where gaps might exist. And if you don't feel completely confident that you're getting maximum value, go talk to a holistic advisor that can help review your situation and give you a second opinion.
Yeah, Dave, thank you for that message. I think that's very powerful. And always, I know Jason and myself appreciate your time, and the listeners are going to appreciate listening to this also. So thank you.
Awesome. See you guys. It was fun.
Thank you for listening to the Holistic Wealth and Health Podcast. We hope we inspired you to make changes so you can live your best life. If you want to find out more about what we do, or if you want to have a holistic wealth and health financial plan, please call 456-833-7000. Please subscribe to the podcast and share it widely with your friends and family.
Financial planning and advisory services are offered through Prosperity Capital Advisors and SEC-registered investment advisor with its principal place of business in the state of Ohio. J.L. Smith Wealth and Tax Planning and PCA are separate, non-affiliated entities. PCA does not provide tax or legal advice. Insurance and tax services offered through Advisor DBA are not affiliated with PCA. Information received from this podcast should not be viewed as individual investment advice. Product discussions and illustrations are hypothetical in nature and will vary based on many factors including, but not limited to, age, health, product, insurance carrier, and product design. You should consult the insurance carrier website and policy for detailed information. For information pertaining to the registration status of PCA, please contact the firm or refer to the Investment Advisor Public Disclosure website. For additional information about PCA, including fees and services, send for our disclosure statement as set forth on Form ADV from PCA using the contact information herein. Please read the disclosure statement carefully before you invest or send money.